Welcome back, gang, to Ocean Pod of the podcast. We're here with Tupuria King. And Tupu, you went after compulsory school to the university, and what did you decide to study and why?
Growing up, I was always into sports, there was nothing really, nothing else that I was really interested in. So, but, I loved PE at high school, so I thought, and my mum was a teacher, so she was a big influence on me, pushing me to go to university. Even though at high school, I wasn't like the brightest of students, I got the work done, but I decided to go to university in 2012 was my first year at university, and it just happened at the time too. I managed to get a scholarship for paddling too, so I was.
Oh, what a novel idea!
Yeah, it was awesome.
For paddling, that's what we need here.
It was awesome. So I, not only did they pay for my papers during the course, but they gave me a strength and conditioning coach, all of the support. That was Sir Edmund Hillary scholarship, so I was really grateful for that. And then, so 3 years later, I completed my my bachelor's degree in sport, health, and human performance. And then, I was still on the scholarship, so I decided, why not take it that next step further?
If they're gonna pay, I'm gonna stay here.
Yeah, exactly. Keep going. Why not take it that next step further and do a master's dissertation? And I thought no other better option to actually do it on the sport of paddling. So I was hoping that when I did my research that I was going to be one of the first to have research in that area. But once I dived into it, man, I found there's already, like, a lot of people don't know that there is a lot of research already done on outrigger canoeing, believe it or not.
Really?
A physiology portion, exercise physiology?
Majority of them coming out of Australia. I don't know if I should name her, but a lady, Rebecca, had done her whole PhD on outrigger canoe paddling, and maybe over 8 different studies on mainly female outrigger canoeists, all to do with physiology. She's like everything from technique to stroke strategies,
fitness,
pacing,
everything.
Wow. Yeah, it was. So that was a big inspiration for my study, I think.
So we don't often have the opportunity to talk to somebody with now your background, your education on that. Mm-hmm. What are some of the things that were most enlightening to you that you learned, or were you able to apply mostly not only to the way you paddle, but the way you train and prepare your body for this?
Yeah, that's a good one, because like I said, everything kind of began properly for me in 2013. So that was when I was already 2 years deep into studying. I was at the end of high school. I was kind of going either two ways. I wasn't really paddling a lot. I was playing rugby, and so I think at that time I could have gone either way. But I suffered some injuries in rugby that kind of forced me to stop rugby altogether. And so I was kind of more focusing on paddling. And then when I was learning more about physiology and training through university, I started to apply that to training, and started to see some results. And that's when I decided, hey, I want to go to the Waka Nationals this year, and I want to try and really give it a good go. And at the time I was only 18, 19. I could have paddled in the under 23s division, but I decided to just go all the way and compete in the opens, and I managed to win my first Premier Men's Champ.
So what is it that you learned, I guess some of the bigger parts that you learned that you apply to the way that you train now?
I think the biggest thing was understanding the physiology and the way that you train. Kind of specifically knowing that we have, different systems in the body. We have basically an aerobic system and an anaerobic system. And once you can understand how to effectively train those different systems, then you can start to, you understand why you're going out every training session and doing what you're doing. Whether it's a 10-minute interval versus a 1-minute interval. Once I started to learn what the outcome of those types of workouts were, then that's when my development came. So, for example, anything truly aerobic and endurance that you want to build would be long and light. You know, just developing that basic cardiovascular fitness. You know, teaching your body to paddle long distance, and that you get all sorts of adaptations. You know, you're especially if you're new to paddling. I mean, there's so much development you can do in those early stages. It's not until you get to the elite that you got to do so much more to make the little differences. But basically, what aerobic training does is it increases the capillaries in the muscle. So you know you're shuttling more blood, more oxygen to the working muscles.
Increasing metabolism.
Yeah, exactly. And basically, the idea is that you want to build that endurance, and then as you get closer to a race, that's when you start introducing more higher intense training. So working more towards the anaerobic, or even the threshold, which is the point between aerobic and anaerobic. And then anaerobic is only really necessary if you're like either sprinting, or it's necessary if you're training for surf or something like that, because you need that.
It's like a series of little sprints.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. So I tend to do that closer to the races, so that you're kind of building a pyramid. Yeah, you're getting your aerobic base, your speed, tempo work, and then closer to the race, you're doing that high intensity race specific stuff. But you're also, at the same time, you're moving from high volume to less volume, so that you're actually recovering from those more high intense workouts, so that you can peak for
So
race
3
day.
months out from the race, what does Tupu's training look like that week?
So 3 months out, I like to work in phases, and whether it's a 4-week phase or a 3-week phase, it usually goes either a 2 or 3 week hard, where you're putting in good mileage for that week, and then followed by an unload week. And every coach or athlete tends to follow this kind of path. So 3 months out, I would most likely, depending on how long I had the whole time, I would be...
I mean, 3 months is arbitrary. If there's a better spot to talk about.
3 months is when Kalai gets off the couch and they have to do a race.
No, that's 3 weeks.
3 weeks.
3 days sometimes.
Well, it depends on the race too, right? Like if you're preparing, let's say, for you have a race coming up back home that you're traveling home to. What was your prep for that? And what races are the distances you're competing in?
Yeah, the way that I train for specific races, I try and pick the important races, and then if I set my training.
Train through the other ones.
Yeah, exactly.
Race through it. Right.
Race through it, despite the
part
fatigue.
Of your train.
Yeah, exactly. If your performance is compromised, then it's okay, because it's kind of part of your training. But for me, ultimately, 12 to 16 weeks would be a perfect build-up, because in the 12 to 13 or 12 to 16 weeks, you can basically do 4 phases. And first phase for me would be endurance. The second phase would be threshold, so kind of race pace with tempo work, which is basically the high end of your anaerobic or aerobic system. And then
active recovery, high peaks, and back to 75, 90, 75, 90.
Yeah, threshold work. Basically, your threshold, an easy gauge for threshold at working at the highest point of your aerobic system, you can work at that speed for 60 to 90 minutes before your glycogen depletes, and then you have to lower that intensity because you run out of energy. So that's the peak end of your aerobic system. So that would be my second phase, focusing on improving that, because that threshold you can actually increase a lot. Yeah. You can train that so that you can work at high intensities but not build up lactic acid, or you can use fuel more efficiently. And then the third phase would be what I like to call VO2 max training, which is even shorter intervals again, from anywhere from 6-minute intervals down to 1-minute intervals. And that is designed to improve the amount of oxygen your body can utilize during strenuous activity. But this is a really important thing that I learned, is that VO2 max is almost genetically predispositioned. So sometimes people were born with just freakishly high VO2 maxes.
Right.
So, for example, with my VO2 maxes here, it's kind of hard to improve the VO2 max. Yeah. So
Really?
what's more important is coming back to this threshold, because the threshold is a percentage of your VO2 max. So
Right.
we could both have the same VO2 max. We could be utilizing the same amount of oxygen, but if my threshold, the point where I start to produce lactic acid in the muscle, if my threshold is higher than yours, and yours is here, but we're still working at the same intensity, you're producing lactic acid, and
I'm gonna
not.
crap out before you.
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
Okay.
So that's an important thing during training. We might be at the same speeds in training, but one's working hard, the other's in a more optimal training zone.
So explain real quickly to those that might not know, what exactly is VO2 max?
VO2 max is, so it's the amount of oxygen your body can utilize during exercise. So as intensity increases, your breathing rate increases, your heart rate increases. So you're needing to get that oxygen into the working muscles.
How is that
just to
typically
supply.
measured? Like you
Yeah.
did, obviously you did this in university. How do you measure that typically?
I see pictures of you.
Yeah.
right up to
Yeah.
there,
Yeah, exactly.
through and
Yeah.
on the treadmill.
That's it. So the most accurate way to measure VO2 max is with a device that measures
Oxygen exchange knows what you breathe in and what you breathe out.
Knows what the VO2, the oxygen that's coming in, and the carbon dioxide that's is
Coming out.
getting breathed out. So
Right.
there's some pretty expensive equipment involved with that, but it's really cool to work with that kind of stuff. But yeah, coming back to, so yeah, VO2 max, it plateaus at a point. So there's a point where it increases as your intensity increases, and just like heart rate, boom, you have a max, and it will just plateau, and that's what your VO2 is. So that's your VO2 max, and it takes roughly 6 minutes of like a full sprint effort to achieve for all your VO2 kinetics to plateau. So if you really wanted to try and roughly figure out what your VO2 is based on a heart rate monitor, you put your heart rate monitor on, do a 6 minute all out kind of race scenario where you're just maxing out, and then whatever you get in that heart rate reading,
That'll correlate to your
VO2 max, and then you can start working training zones off that.
So you're saying VO2 max is sort of predisposed in a person. You're going to come with so much based upon genetics, right? And you can improve your threshold to your VO2 max by training.
Yeah.
Now, are there other elements that will affect your VO2 max, like age? Does it begin to decrease, of course, with age, and you have a certain peak age while you're probably in your early 20s, like where you're at right now?
Yes, definitely. I think as the VO2 will decrease with age, it's known that your max heart rate, which is pretty much equivalent to your VO2, will decrease with age also. So yeah, there is different ranges. Like if you can't do a test to measure your max heart rate properly, then roughly you can minus 220 minus your age would roughly give you your max heart rate.
Okay. In a general.
Yeah, generally. Yeah.
Okay. So you talked about you're talking about the 4 phases. You build that base, right? You get your aerobic, then you work on pushing your threshold.
Yeah.
Then the third one
threshold.
is
The third one is VO2 max.
Okay.
Yeah, VO2 max. So that's VO2 max. It's either VO2 max or anaerobic training, I would call it. But those two concepts are different, because when you say VO2 max, you are working at 100% too, but you're not necessarily. It's complicated because anaerobic training is purely without oxygen. So true anaerobic training only really lasts, say, between 10 seconds and 2 minutes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like a maximal lift.
Yeah.
That
It's
kind
like
of thing,
your
right?
4 periods are always at 100%, but you're training at 100% of what you would do for an hour, and 100%
Yeah.
of what you do maybe in 20 minutes, and
Yeah.
then 6 minutes, and then 10 seconds.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
you're just shortening the window, but no way you could do like a 15-second max speed for an hour.
Yeah, exactly.
And nor would you sprint at 100% of your threshold and say that's my top speed for 250 meters. So
Now, why do you put that there at the fourth phase? Is that the kind of it's intense, but it's short, easiest to recover from, closer to the race?
Yeah, I think the reason you do the endurance, then the threshold, and then either VO2 or anaerobic work is that if you're doing it like that, so that you're going from low intensity and you're building that base, so that you're less likely to get injured, as opposed to if you jump straight into
Going all
high
out.
intensity training, then you're more likely to get injured. You're not giving your time to develop that aerobic base, because if you build that aerobic base, then you recover better from those harder workouts later on. So that's that high intensity VO2 max training, which is intervals, like I said, anywhere between 6 minutes or shorter. That's that third phase. And then I like the last phase, I like to call that race specific, because those first 3 phases are pretty generic and can work both for sprint and long distance training. But it's that last month or phase, whatever, it is what's going to make the difference in that specific adaptation to whichever race you're training. So whether you're training for an open ocean race, then that last month you're spending a lot of time in the race conditions that you'll be racing in, surfing against other people, being competitive, and so just so you're getting used to that intensity for race day.
As opposed to a long flat race where you would just kind of maybe just continue to build your base, right?
Yeah, exactly. Or you can, if it's going to be a sprint distance event, then your focus is improving your 500 meter or breaking down the 500 meter or 1,000 meter, 1,500 meter against competitors.
So you really look for a 3 to 4 month or 12 to 16 week basically training period that you're looking at.
Which is probably a good time to mention that my Train with Tupu programs are coming out hopefully soon. We've given away 3 free Train with Tupu programs last week to 3 lucky competitors, but
where are you holding you holding them back home? Here, or?
No, well the training programs will be all online. So
Awesome.
Soon I'll have my new website up and the programs will be for sale on there. So we're pretty excited to.
So are you able to tailor those programs to the specific individual and kind of finding out where they're at and then building one just for them?
Yeah, to a degree. We wanted to make it as efficient as possible. So we without complicating too much, we have an intermediate level, and then we have an elite level, and then basically they get the program monthly, and then each week there's tips and tricks from me, and so we're still working out the final logistics, but I think to date this is the best training. I've done a lot of training programs in the last few years, and basically been on my own, but I've received a lot of outside help this time to really make these programs look really cool. So I'm pretty excited to get.
So is it just the training? Do you go into stuff like techniques on catching waves in the surf on the or maybe diet stuff or
strategy
on, any of that stuff?
Yes.
Mental? Anything mental?
Meditate.
So the intermediate program, I believe, will just have paddling, on water training. Yeah. But the elite option, the advanced option, will have on water paddling. It will have gym training, running, and then with the technique and that stuff that comes in with each week the tips and tricks video that they will receive weekly.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So.
And so if somebody's interested in improving their paddling, this seems like a great way. How would they be able to find you or find this program?
Hopefully soon. My new website, www.tupuriaking.com,
Cool.
will be up, and there will be two programs to choose from, and then basically you can find me on Instagram and my athlete Facebook page. I'm always willing to answer questions there. And
cool.
Yeah, so.
Very cool. So I mean that's kind of living the dream, being able to do what you love and pursuing it and maybe make a little bit of a living out of it. Now, paddling and all the traveling that you've been doing is not an easy sport, but you have a lot of people that have been supporting you, like guys that are sponsoring. Who you got taking care of you right now?
I've got my day one sponsors, Thai Paddles from New Zealand. Conan Herbert makes Thai paddles out of Raglan in New Zealand. I've been with him for a long time. Waka is my Tahitian outrigger canoe company. Like I said, majority of my racing is V1, and I think Waka is the best rudderless canoe at the moment, especially in New Zealand. It's just taken New Zealand by storm. Almost everybody has a 5R.
Cool.
Another big one is that I got on a couple of years ago was with Air Tahiti Nui airline. So that's the reason why I've spent so much time in Tahiti, and really fortunate to have that opportunity to fly there. Strong Arm New Zealand, an apparel company, clothing company. Manuia Tahiti. My cousin Maori Spartan, he's started a new company, Maori Spartan, which is basically a relative company to Tahitian Spartan, which is run in Tahiti. So, cool. Alongside that, I mean, I get a lot of support from, like I said, Team Paddling Connection was a big support for me. Like, for the last few years. The last couple of years, Huinalu, Team Oceania, Mario Masui was a big support for me. It was awesome racing with them, Team Oceania, over the last couple of years. But this year, I've been fortunate enough to join Team Kālahui Kai under Outrigger Canoe Company with Alan Fluger, and he's got a really good junior program going, and now he's developing a strong open men's presence. So
was that part of what's helped you come here to do the one-man season?
Yeah,
okay,
for sure.
So you came here to do the one-man season, and you've been killing it. You've been having a lot of great races. What's the season been like for you? What kind of experiences have you had as far as,
Is it different from home? Obviously different race courses, different canoes and things, but the format, you did most of the Kanaki Kaika races, or when did you pick up?
It's been awesome. I mean, I came here about a month and a half ago, and I still remember getting on my first training session, hopping on the OC1. Kai Bartlett lent me an Aries while I'm here, so I'm pretty stoked about that. But I remember the first training with the likes of Tuarongo, Cohen, Travis Grant. I think Pat Dolan came out for a few trainings. And I remember the first few, I was just getting.
Look around.
Oh, that's kind of
lineup.
lineup.
Pretty cool. This guy's
I was getting owned in those first few training sessions. I was like, how are they making this boat go so fast? So it was a bit of a shock. But
what was the adjustments you had to make? I mean, you obviously were trying to figure out, okay, what is this?
He took the rudder off.
Wait till they flip
this thing's slowing me down.
No, I mean, once I started getting the feeling for the OC1 and just spending more time on it in general, I think I adapted to the canoe quite fast. But in saying that, in New Zealand, I do a majority of my training on my own. Especially when I'm up north, it's quite an isolated area. So either if my mum or my dad or my sisters aren't out there paddling with me, then I'm alone, which is majority of the time. So it's a different training aspect. But coming here and being a part of the Kālahui Kai program, training with these fast guys, it's been training that I compare to when I'm in Tahiti, because in Tahiti you can train, no matter where you train in Tahiti, there's always going to be the big pack that will meet up outside the pass, boom, race down in the surf, and every day. So like that's what I believe that is the reason for the level of paddling in Tahiti, is that continual competitive
always pushing each
nature
other
in training, you know. So when it comes race, it's second nature. But here, being in Hawaii and training with these fast guys, I think it's quite equivalent to Tahiti, which is good for me and good for the team, and especially once 6-man season comes about, the team should be pretty fit.
Because of the cold waters and all that stuff. Do you have a lot of these like relay type races and stuff like that in New Zealand or just here?
We did have one relay race this year, and it was around the island of Waiheke, and it was actually maybe the only relay race we have for the singles, and it's a long one too. So it's good to see new races coming about in New Zealand.
You had a good relay with Tuarongo. How did that race go for you this year? The Kanaki Kai Cup Oahu relay, right?
Yeah. That was an awesome race. I was stoked when Tuarongo asked me to race with him.
Yeah, I was wondering how that dynamic went.
Exactly.
Did the coach just put you guys together, or do you go, hey man, you want to paddle with me?
Yeah.
So bro, what you doing on Sunday?
Yeah. No, I mean, man, Tuarongo's been owning the races here too. You know,
Yes.
he's in really top form, and I think the hardest thing was deciding which legs we were going to do, because you know, you either do the first and third, or the second and the last one. But I wasn't too confident in finishing the race, but I wasn't confident in doing the Makapu run, because I haven't done it much.
Yeah,
so
the water can get sketchy out there.
Yeah, so Tuarongo had to trust me with doing the last Hawaii Kai run, which was, he did really well in the Makapu run and got a good lead, so I just had to hold on, I guess.
Oh, nice, nice. And then you went from that and you race, was it the next day or was it a week later?
A week later was the Oahu State Championships, which was a long and flat, hot race. And then the Sunday after that race was the V1.
So it was a
qualifiers.
back-to-back Saturday, Sunday race, each one of them being what, 20-something miles?
I believe 20 miles on the Saturday, so 30 kilometers. We use kilometers in New Zealand, which is a long race, especially if it's hot and flat like that. Yeah. And then
brutal.
And it was only a 10-second difference between me and Tuarongo, so we battled for the last, I want to say,
I saw that finish.
2 or 3
after
miles.
20 miles, these guys are full out sprinting in flat water. Ugh.
And then the same thing happened on the Sunday. It was more like 10 split seconds, just sprinting right to the finish. So yeah,
very cool.
It was good racing.
And then you raced M2M this last weekend. I heard there's a good story behind that. Maui to Molokai, which the conditions, for anybody that didn't know, and just to give a little bit of perspective, it was nuking wind for several days, and the way that channel between those islands funnels the air, the wind that comes through there, it's an absolute sleigh ride in moderate conditions, and it was blowing hard, and so there was big water out there, but the kind of big water that a good paddler just salivates over. You know, I was just talking to people, and they were so stoked to be even just able to have the race in those kind of conditions.
For sure, I was so excited for the race, because last year I did the Pailolo 6-man for the first year, and that was one of the best downwinds I've ever done. It was amazing. So and then knowing that it was going to be a big win this weekend, I was so excited. I had a little bit of bad luck. I mean, I had a good 30 minutes. I was with Kainoa and Kua, and we're surfing, and I was just getting excited, because the more you get into the race, the bigger the surf gets, and it gets exciting. But right about on the 30-minute mark, I was paddling, and then I kind of went to push onto a bump, and then I just felt the power in my stroke just left, and I was like, I didn't hear anything, but then I looked down, and my paddle had snapped at the blade. So
He had
And I
about a
didn't.
third of the way. He had it in his truck when he came in. He's like, yeah, he was telling me a story. He goes, yeah, I probably got him. You can
no, paddler's
tell
nightmare.
Yeah.
And you didn't have a backup?
No spare.
I didn't have a spare. I mean, all my years racing in Tahiti, and I never pack a spare, and I've never broken a paddle, and that was the first time during a race, and I didn't know what to do. I just I might have made a noise, and Kua looked at me, and he didn't have a spare, so I think he just thought, oh, good luck, and I looked around to see
Escort boats or anything,
escort
right?
boats or paddlers with spare blades, but I didn't get one until a guy, Chad Lima, happened to come down, surf down on my same line as me, and he gave me one of his paddles, which I'm pretty grateful for. And,
Yeah, Chad, thanks, man.
Yeah, so thanks, Chad. I owe you a beer, I think.
I think you owe a few beers.
And but yeah, I think after that point, I mean, because especially after the weekend before in the Oahu State Championships, I had a bit of trouble too, coming around near Hanoma Bay. Me, Kua, and Tuarunga were battling, and then this fishing boat came past in the opposite direction, and they were trolling, and I actually they hooked up onto my rudder, so they were started. I didn't know what happened. It's big boom, and I started
These
getting
ones have a reverse.
yeah, and I thought I just hit something, but then I just started getting dragged backwards, and I was like, oh no! So I jumped out of my canoe, but as I jumped out, I was lucky I
towed
did
backwards.
Yeah, and lucky I held on. Otherwise, my canoe would have. I think
Gone.
the tension would have just pulled it and taken my canoe. But I managed to get to the rudder, and there were two lines wrapping around it. And lucky I didn't get hooked too from the trolling lure. But I managed to, with one pull, boom! I got the lines clear and jumped in. But it just felt like deja vu watching Kua just, take off into the distance. I was like, not again.
Oh,
please.
that's crazy.
But
And that is the same race that you won by just a few seconds.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of margins you were working with at that time was crazy. So you had a couple of a near miss, a really bad one that kind of ruined your race. But that's a race you'll be back for next year, I'm sure. But you're going to be leaving Hawaii today, headed back home for a bit, and then coming back for the solo.
Yes. So today I head back to New Zealand. This weekend I have our long distance national championships.
How far is that?
For the V1s, it's V1 or OC1. It's roughly 18 kilometers.
Okay.
And then so that's on the Friday, and then 6-man. It's usually 24 to 30 kilometers for the 6-mans, and it also this week serves as the V1 qualifiers for New Zealand to compete at the world long distance in Australia in August.
Awesome.
So the biggest it's going to be a big challenge for me this week because, like I said, Manutia Mion is a New Zealand citizen, and he's coming this week too to compete.
How many spots?
One spot.
Ooh.
One spot. So
Wow.
knowing Manutia has been consistently top 3 for the last 2 or 3 years in the TI Tour and Super I Tour. It's a big challenge, and Kevin is also coming this week for a race as well, just for the fun of it. But so it should be a good race. But yeah, solo is definitely the big.
There's a lot happening for you in this 2-month period. It must be like back-to-back big important races like every week. That's awesome. And so you're going to be coming back in 2 weeks, I think it is, for the solo.
Yes.
And what's the training plan between now and then? What are you looking for that?
I'm in New Zealand this weekend, and I'm gonna aim to get back as soon as possible. So hopefully it's Wednesday here now. I'm hoping to be back either next Wednesday or hopefully Thursday, because then it would only give me a week and a half left before the solo. And I mean, we can't do too much before the solo. I mean, you'll get a
Hey, you
a
have
few.
been sitting on the couch.
Yeah, exactly. You have to sometimes you got to trust in the training that you've done. I mean, you just look, that's what these big races that, the Oahu State Champs and all these races are for, they're little test runs that ultimately lead to the main goal. So you got to think of what you've done there and just make sure that you're you're healthy and ready for the big one, which is.
So you're in the thick of things right now, but for the rest of this year, maybe the next couple years, what's the horizon look like? What's a plan for you? What's a plan for Tupu?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I think I said to a friend of mine yesterday that if I really want to become the paddler that I aspire to be, which is everybody wants to be world champion, the best paddler, and there's two places that I would go, and first one is Tahiti, no doubt. Tahiti would be the ultimate place to live, train, and become a good paddler. But the other one is Hawaii, here. So having come here and spent a little bit of time and seen it here, it's kind of a little goal in the back of my mind that, man, maybe one day I can live and train here out of Hawaii, which that would be my ultimate dream. I mean, I don't know if you guys know Maui Kelson.
Maui Kelson, yeah.
Maui Kelson from New Zealand. He was a big legend in New Zealand. You know, he dominated the Premier Men's from such a young age, and then he moved to Hawaii and he's living in Kauai. Obviously, he was already a
Team
citizen.
Hawaii, New Zealand.
Yeah. Fireman on Kauai. He builds.
We were talking about
paddles.
that with Luke and Keizo kind of last week, where all the paddlers are moving to Kauai and becoming firemen.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
half the Kauai fire
that's-
department is paddlers.
And then they're going to start hydrofoiling.
yeah.
And,
I mean, I think that's something I'm definitely going to consider.
Well, that's a cool little trifecta. You got, you know, Hawaii, Tahiti,
Yeah.
and of course New Zealand. You've got a home base you're developing in each, and I think that's a great plan to be rounding yourself out in those three places. I mean, no better.
Exactly.
And the other is also developing your, you know, personal and business life, right, with
Yeah.
your website.
Yeah, for sure. I'm pretty excited about the training programs coming out. Hopefully, once we get the training programs out, we can start looking into other things. I don't know, like anything
Clinics?
really. Yeah, definitely clinics. I'm always open to traveling the world. I really want to go to places, you know, South America, all these, to see what's out there. There's, you know, paddling's becoming so worldwide now that you can basically, last year I was in Singapore and Hong Kong doing coaching clinics for a week at a time. That was awesome. So I just want to explore more.
And what I think is neat for people is that you're one of the few guys that is putting together, you know, the education and the background and the science that you've actually studied at a university level with your masters, and being able to turn that into winning big races and being one of the best in the world. And if you want to get a, you know, instruction on how to follow that, you know, this is the kind of guy you need coming to your club or to your race or whatever to do clinics. So that's great for you, man. We are so stoked that you're able to fit us in your little time schedule
thanks for
here
coming
while you're
today.
in Hawaii.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
And good luck back in New Zealand. We'll be
Yeah,
rooting for
thank
you.
you.
And of course, we'll be looking for you when we shoot some film
Come
of
back.
the solo. We'll be looking
sure.
for two brother. And you're gonna have an escort boat on this one, right? So make sure they have an extra paddle.
Another paddle.
I have an extra 2 paddles, I think. Yeah,
All right.
for sure.
Okay, Jason, anything? Are we gonna do our quick fire question answer thing?
Oh, yeah. Favorite race? What's your favorite race?
Super Aito.
Why?
Definitely.
Super Aito.
Super Aito is the, even just to make the Super Aito, you have to make top 100 in the Te Aito. You know, but
That's the one you got like 126th?
Yeah, in my first one.
First one.
The best placing I've ever got in the Super Aito is sixth place, and I think that's definitely the race I want to win one day. Yeah.
Great.
Okay, so his favorite race, favorite place to paddle.
Favorite place to paddle, yeah.
Favorite place to paddle would be Hawaii Nui, the last leg between Taha and finishing in Bora Bora, white sand beach, just like, and then all
Thousands of people in boats.
people standing all the way down the finish line, marking the finish line like that, and support boats, just hundreds of support boats too, catamarans, and it's such a good feeling to come in and finish.
Yeah, I don't think
finish
any
it.
other race has the fan base like the end of Hawaii Nui. It's incredible over there.
Amazing.
What's your favorite food to have on the escort boat while
Race
you're racing
food.
or training? Best race food.
Oh, this isn't going to be good.
Tell us the truth.
Yeah, okay, I'll tell you the truth. The number one thing that I would pack on a support boat is Coca-Cola.
Flat Coke, man. Flat Coke and Snickers at the end, boy.
For that last hour of a big race, I mean, there's nothing else that, I mean, even in any sports drink, I mean, there's nothing else that the body will take up and use as energy faster than Coke, you know, because it's the simplest form of sugar. Yeah, exactly. I mean, like during the day it's bad. I mean, like don't drink it if you're not exercising. But I mean, that's one thing that picks me up without giving me any stomach distress. You know, stick to what you're used to. Yeah.
Now Kalahui Kai is your home club in Hawaii. Outer Connection, obviously in Tahiti. You got to throw props out to your home club over in New Zealand and all your crew that you grew up with and paddle with still.
Yeah, so like I said, the first club that I paddled for, Ngāhui Horo, was one of the first developed in New Zealand. And I paddle for a team called Herbert's on Tour.
Oh, okay.
And in my team, there's three brothers, Conan, Sean, and Chase Herbert. And their father, Bo Herbert, was a legend in his day. And he paddled with Team Hawaii in New Zealand, and they won the Molokai with Maui.
With Maui,
Carlson.
Keapai Aina.
So I mean, it's when I was young, I was always watching these Herberts on tour, like aspiring to maybe one day make their team. So when I first made their team, you know, years ago, man, I was stoked. So I'm always stoked to go home and race with the boys, with the Herberts, and yeah, the boys are looking good actually. I haven't been home for long, but I can see that they're training, and this weekend we're looking to hopefully do well.
Good. Yeah. Good luck to you guys. I appreciate you again. Thanks for coming out to join us here.
Thank you.
Ocean Paddler, the podcast.
Alex, the EP, he brought you a baby Coca-Cola.
We're gonna send Coca-Cola the bill for that product placement. Join us again for more Ocean Paddler, the podcast. Good luck to you. Tupu will be looking for you, and definitely you can find Tupu at his upcoming website at tupuriaking.com. Jay, what you got?
We're good, man. I'm not saying it. It's your thing.
All right, Tupu, thanks again.
Thank you.
I'm Kala England. Until next time, hoi pa.